Whether they were human, robot, ape, or beaver, no villain was safe in 2024. These are just a handful of the bad guys that met a permanent end on the big screen over the course of the year. Just beware, spoilers ahead. When the first trailer for Madam Web dropped in November of 2023, the internet couldn't stop obsessing over one particular bit of awkwardly worded dialogue.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
So who's the he in that sentence? That would be one Ezekiel Sims, who dons a legally distinct spider suit in his efforts to prevent his own destruction. After he gets a vision of the future in which he's killed by 3 superpowered women, Sims dedicates the remainder of his life to snuffing them out before they can ever become crime fighters. It's a bold plan, and it might have just worked if local paramedic Cassandra Webb hadn't just conveniently gained the power of clairvoyance. Thanks to the efforts of Cassie and the 3 teenagers she rescued, Sims is stopped once and for all. A fight in an abandoned fireworks factory ends in explosive chaos. But after Cassie manages to get her new friends to safety with her powers, Sims gets crushed like a spider by a Pepsi sign. It's not the first recorded case of death by product placement, but it still makes for a rather unceremonious ending to a disappointing movie. The rank of Prime is perhaps the highest honor that a heroic Transformer can receive, but not all robots who call themselves Primes have goodness in their giant mechanical hearts. Case in point, Sentinel Prime, whose position as a seemingly benevolent leader of Iacon City in Transformers 1 hides a terrible truth.
Down here, the truth is what I make it.
Everyone on Cybertron sees Sentinel Prime as a legendary hero, including mining robots Orion and D-16. Eventually, though, they discover that rather than defending the planet from evildoers, Sentinel Prime has been colluding with the wicked aliens known as the Quintessons. He's even removed the transforming cogs from many of the planet's various denizens, including the heroes. And what's a transformer that can't transform? Orion Pax and D-16 are both crushed by this news, but they each process their pain in starkly different ways. Pax wants to help the oppressed robots rise up and take control of their destiny, while D-16 wants to exact violent revenge on Sentinel Prime. It's not long before D-16 lets his vengeance take over, ripping Sentinel Prime in half in front of a crowd of other robots. As the murderous Transformer takes on the name Megatron, it's clear that one monstrous machine has paved the runway for another. Despite ordering the destruction of entire houses, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen isn't the type to actually get his hands dirty, unless you count his oil baths. He'd much rather have other people doing the dirty work for him as he soaks in his tub and watches gladiator battles. That is until trouble finally makes its way to him. In the first Dune, Harkonnen orders an attack on House Atreides in order to ensure control of the Arrakis spice trade. This vicious maneuver inspires a lust for vengeance in the heart of young Paul Atreides, and after nearly 6 hours of screen time, the ending of Dune Part 2 finally sees Paul exacting his revenge. After leading a battle as a Lisan or Gaib, Paul finds Harkonnen holed up in the Imperial complex. Newly armed with the knowledge that the Baron is his grandfather, he executes him on the spot. Sorry, Pop-Pop.
You die like an animal.
Joining the Baron in death is his creepy nephew, Fade Rother, who also finds himself on the receiving end of Paul's knife. If the books are any indication, Paul's power over the Fremen seems to be leading him in a similarly fanatical direction. In their first big American crossover movie, Godzilla and Kong eventually put aside their differences to take down Mecha Godzilla. Instead of pulling another villain from the existing roster of kaiju for Godzilla x Kong the New Empire, the Titanic duo end up facing off against a brand new foe, a dark parallel to Kong.
Their false king remains obsessed with reaching the surface. The Iwi call him the Skar King.
A massive red ape whose evilness stretches back to before the first ice age. Skar King lives deep in Hollow Earth with a gorilla army and a giant ice-breathing lizard called Shimo. Skar King has a crystal that's basically a dog whistle for giant frost monsters, so he commands Shimo to attack Kong and let him ride her around like a pony. The plan? Get to the surface world via portal and do what kaiju do best. Things come to a head when Skar King and Shimo make it to Rio de Janeiro. It seems like the monsters might just start a second ice age, but the little big ape Zuko manages to change the tide of the battle by shattering Shimo's crystal. With Shimo on their side, as well as a newly reborn Mothra, they're able to stop the simian dictator. Shimo freezes Skar King solid, so Kong can shatter him into countless shards of ice, Terminator 2 style. Thanks to a masterful marketing campaign and the acting talents of Nicolas Cage, Longlegs ended up being one of the most memorable horror movies of 2024. With the help of an impressive team of makeup and prosthetic artists, Cage was transformed into his most menacing character yet, and there's a lot of competition there.
Accept the gift and destroy it. And destroy yourself.
a demonic entity prone to acts of evil and fits of bizarre singing. The murderer, known as Longlegs, leaves a lengthy string of bodies behind him, despite never actually being in the houses of his victims when they die. That fact, along with a series of coded messages, drives FBI agent Lee Harker to track him down with what may or may not be psychic abilities. Once Harker and her associates track down Longlegs and arrest him, it seems like they finally might be able to get a confession and learn the truth. But the killer has different ideas. He slams his own head into the interrogation room table so hard that his nose comes off. Longlegs may be dead, but his murderous plans continue thanks to an unexpected accomplice. It seems as if he's so powerful that he can commit crimes from beyond the grave. In the two previous Deadpool movies, the supervillains mostly played second fiddle to Deadpool's snarky comments. Deadpool 2 in particular featured a handful of temporary baddies before the finale revealed that the Juggernaut was actually the story's big bad. In Deadpool and Wolverine, the two lovable mutants end up fighting one of the MCU's strongest mutants, at least so far. Cassandra Nova, the twin sister of Charles Xavier.
We shared a wound. Tried to strangle the sly little fellow with my umbilical cord.
Amen. I've never loved roommates.
Born with unsettling mental powers, Cassandra was brought to the Void by the Time Variance Authority when she was a newborn. She eventually procures an army of other abandoned mutants to do her bidding, surviving in the harshest place imaginable. Enduring in these conditions makes Cassandra a terrifyingly imposing mutant. But like so many other seemingly unstoppable Marvel movie baddies, she isn't immortal. Eventually, Cassandra concocts a plan to wipe out multiple universes using the TVA's Time Ripper. Deadpool and Wolverine unite to stop it, no matter the cost. And when they finally do destroy the device, Cassandra is destroyed along with her. She could survive the Void, but she couldn't survive the combined might of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. When rumors started swirling that the 2019 film Joker would be receiving a sequel, fans cooked up all sorts of theories about what Arthur Fleck's next misadventure might look like. The possibilities were endless, but I don't think anyone predicted that it would be a cross between a courtroom drama and a jukebox musical. Nevertheless, that's exactly what Joker Folie was, for better and for worse. While on trial for the crimes he committed in the previous films, Arthur bonds with several of his fellow inmates, particularly his love interest, Lee, and it brings out his humanity. As the trial concludes, he rebukes Joker, finally taking responsibility for his actions and admitting that he needs serious help. Such a revelation doesn't sit well with various Gotham citizens who have made Arthur Fleck's persona their entire reason for being.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
In the controversial ending of Folie Deux, Arthur stops to chat with one of his prison pals, Jack Oswald White, who has a joke to tell. The punchline of that joke is White stabbing Arthur to death. Hilarious. Despite the original Joker being an origin story, this version of the character will never go on to torment Batman. Instead, he's just another failed comedian bleeding out on the floor. There's nothing quite like a satisfying revenge story, and Dev Patel's Monkey Man hits the spot. As a kid, the hero, called Kid, was helpless as corrupt cops destroyed his village and killed his mother under the direction of the spiritual guru, Baba Shakti. As an adult, Kid makes it his mission to avenge his community by eliminating Shakti and Rana Singh, the police chief who does his dirty work. Even though he supposedly preaches peace and love, Shakti isn't exactly the nicest guy. In fact, he's an advisor to some of the most hateful and popular politicians in India. He's so popular that Kid and his allies have to take down dozens of bodyguards before they can even get close to him. After taking out Chief Singh, Kid finally comes face to face with Shakti himself. They're not exactly evenly matched, but Shakti takes a page from Assassin's Creed and does some damage with hidden blades. Eventually though, like so many action movie baddies before him, Shakti succumbs to the hero's incredible combat skills on the top floor of his massive complex and dies.
Forgive me. Have mercy, please. Only God can forgive you now.
It doesn't take a super genius like Caesar Catalina to figure out why Megalopolis bombed at the box office. Despite writer-director Francis Ford Coppola's lofty ambitions, the film in its final form is a bunch of famous people stiffly reciting Shakespeare in front of cheap-looking backdrops. If there's one bright spot in the ocean of CGI noise though, it's Aubrey Plaza's conniving reporter, Well Platinum. She doesn't just have a great name, she's also a classical schemer in a world full of actors sleepwalking through their roles.
You and I ought to have an understanding. You're on my territory now, and you're gonna play by my rules.
Platinum eventually formulates a plan to steal away the wealth and power of her husband, Hamilton Crassus III, by plotting and sleeping with his son, Claudio Pulcher. Their nefarious ambitions result in Crassus having a stroke. Pulcher and Platinum visit the bedridden Crassus to revel in their victory, only for Crassus to make the deadliest joke of the year. Revealing a tiny crossbow under his sheets, he fires an arrow into Platinum's chest, killing her instantly. And with that, the most compelling character in Megalopolis is gone. It's probably impossible to count the exact number of beavers that appear throughout the movie, Hundreds of Beavers, but it's safe to say that the title doesn't lie. Taking inspiration from Buster Keaton and Looney Tunes, this micro-budget comedy pits struggling Applejack salesman Jean Kayak against an ever-growing army of woodland creatures. The best part, every single one of them is being played by a human being in a mascot suit. No animals were harmed in the making of this picture. After Kayak's orchard is destroyed by the beavers, he decides to earn the affections of the local merchant's daughter by giving her father as many pelts as possible. With a narrative that resembles a video game more than a movie, Hundreds of Beavers shows the spurned salesman developing unique beaver killing strategies and upgrading his gear as he attempts to complete his quest. Beavers get crushed, clobbered, exploded, and so much more. The increasingly convoluted acts of violence then come to a screeching halt when Kayak is put on trial for his actions by the Beavers. Though originally screened in 2022, it didn't see its video-on-demand release until early 2024, and remains one of the most criminally underseen movies of the year. The fur trade has never been funnier than this.